Shinto is a religion originating from Japan. Scholars of religion have debated how to classify Shinto, as there is no universally agreed upon definition. Shinto is multifaceted and has a combination of Buddhist, Confucian, Taoist, and folktale elements. It's about expressing one's relationship with nature and the interwoven life cycles of humans, land, and water. Many scholars describe Shinto as a religion. Some practitioners instead view Shinto as a way, thus characterizing it more as a tradition of belief. One single broad definition of Shinto is a belief in kami. A polytheistic and animistic religion, Shinto revolves around supernatural entities called kami. The kami are believed to inhabit all things, including forces of nature and prominent landscape locations. They are worshipped at household and public shrines. Public shrines are staffed by priests who oversee offerings to the kami to cultivate harmony between themselves and humanity. In Japanese translations, no distinction is made between singular and plural, hence the term kami refers to both an individual kami as well as a collective. It is often said that there are an infinite amount of kami, and that Shinto practitioners believe that they are present everywhere. They are not regarded as omnipotent, omniscient, or necessarily immortal. The term kami is conceptually fluid, vague, and imprecise. Kami are seen to inhabit both the living and the dead, organic and inorganic material, plus natural disasters like earthquakes, droughts, and plagues. Their presence is seen in natural forces, such as the wind, rain, fire, and sunshine. Kami are deemed capable of both benevolent and destructive deeds. If warnings about good conduct are ignored, the kami can mete out punishment, often illness or even sudden death. Offerings and prayers are given to them to gain their blessings and to dissuade them from any destructive actions. Shinto seeks to cultivate and ensure harmonious relationships between humans and the kami, and thus create a balance within the natural world. There is no central authority and control of Shinto, with much diversity of belief and practice evident among practitioners. A creation myth recounts that the universe started with the separation of light and pure elements from heavy elements. Kami eventually followed, including a brother and a sister, Izanagi and Izanami. The kami instructed Izanagi and Izanami to create land on Earth. To this end, the siblings stirred the briny sea with a jeweled spear, from which an island was formed. Izanami later gave birth to a fire kami, which led to her death. Izanagi descended to the underworld to retrieve her body, but upon witnessing her rotting corpse, he closed its entrance off with a boulder instead. While ritually cleansing himself after his upsetting netherworld expedition, Izanagi created a trinity of gods. These new gods and goddesses were the sun god, Amaterasu, storm god, Susanoo, and moon god, Tsukiyomi. Ancient texts portray multiple realms in the Shinto cosmology. These present a universe divided into three parts: the plane of high heaven, where the kami live, the manifested world, where the humans dwell, and the netherworld, where unclean spirits reside. Modern Shinto places greater emphasis on this life than on any afterlife. In the afterlife, the spirit survives the bodily death and continues to assist the living. A key theme in Shinto is the avoidance of a term meaning pollution or impurity. In Japanese thought, humans are seen as fundamentally pure. The pollution is therefore seen as being a temporary condition that can be corrected through a rites of purification, conducted to restore an individual's spiritual health and render them useful to society. Among the things regarded as particular pollutants in Shinto include death, disease, witchcraft, the flaying alive of an animal, incest, bestiality, excrement, and blood associated with childbirth. Salt and fire are often regarded as purifying substances. Some Shinto practitioners will, for example, sprinkle salt on themselves after a funeral. Shinto incorporates morality tales and myths, but no codified ethical doctrine, and thus no unified code of behavior. An ethical system nevertheless arises from its practice, with emphasis placed on sincerity, honesty, hard work, and thanksgiving directed towards the kami. Shinto focuses on ritual behavior rather than doctrine. Shinto is interested not in the things that should be believed, but in things that should be done. In Shinto, there's the law of natural order. Disrupting this order is deemed bad, contributing to it is thought good. As such, subordination of the individual to a larger social unit has long been a characteristic of the religion. Shrines are public spaces in which the kami are worshipped. The shrine applies to the location rather than to any specific structure. Shrine entrances are marked by two post gateways, with either one or two crossbeams atop it. These are known as torii. The exact details of these torii vary, and there are at least 20 different styles. These structures are regarded as demarcating the areas in which the kami reside. Passing under them is often viewed as a form of purification. As with teachers, instructors, and Buddhist clergy, Shinto priests are often referred to as sensei by lay practitioners. Historically, there were female priests, although they were largely pushed out of their positions in 1868. Within Elden Ring, there exist entities known as outer gods. The name outer could be a reference to how they don't fall in line with the Golden Order's belief system due to their relationship with death. Others believe that the term outer to mean that they literally come from outside of the lands between. Those that are directly stated to be in-game outer gods include the Formless Mother, aka Birth, the God of Rot, aka Decay, and the Twinbird, aka Death. Outer gods seek an envoy to grant them greater influence. The empyreans that contain these gods are similar to the kami of Shintoism, divine manifestations of nature. The Formless Mother, also known as the Mother of Truth, is an outer god who bestows power upon accursed blood. Its powers are driven by blood sacrifice, while accursed blood erupts with fire. As Mog's horn slowly grew into his eye, it granted him an audience with the Formless Mother. This sacrifice of trading an eye for knowledge is found throughout Elden Ring's narrative. His goal became the creation of the Mogwyn dynasty, using his accursed blood as a sacrifice to alter Miquella into godhood. There also exists an entity called the Blood Star, also connected to blood sacrifice, to form red glintstone. The Blood Star's hammer states that the Blood Star is an ill omen, therefore the red star may be the visual representation of the Formless Mother. Aberrant sorcery utilizes red glintstone, and thorn sorcerers have their own eyes gouged out by thorns, similar to how Mog's horn gouged out his eye. The Blood Star is heavily related to thorns as well. Thorn sorcerers summon thorns to cause blood loss on their foes. Another user of thorns is Radagon, as seen by the thorns that he uses to stop any tarnish from entering the Erd Tree. Radagon's eyes have also been removed and are used as talismans, his Sore Seal and his Scar Seal. His eyes may have been used as a sacrifice for the Greater Will, but I felt like his use of thorn sorcery was very interesting. In the past, the outer god of Rot had its essence sealed away by a blind swordsman at the Lake of Rot. Melania was born cursed with this rot, and with the help of the blind swordsman, gained wings of unparalleled strength. Who exactly was this legendary blind swordsman? It appears from his eyewear, involvement near the Lake of Rot, and choice of flowing weaponry that he might be a member of the Eternal Cities that was once cursed with Rot himself. It was the Blue Fairy that taught the blind swordsman how to seal the outer god of Rot, and the one that bestowed his flowing blade. Is it possible that the Blue Dancer was a kami, or a spirit that is the personification of the twin rivers found near the Eternal Cities? The Blue Dancer taught the blind swordsman the waterfowl dance, a battle technique to flow like water. This technique is an allegory for acquiring the flowing water to purify Melania's spreading rot. The kami is teaching how to use water to purify as well as dance, just like the practices found in Shintoism. Outside of using water to stop the spread of rot, Radagon's ranks utilize fire to purify the rot, a technique mentioned earlier that is used by Shinto priests. We learn the most about rot from the wizard Gowry, a title denoting his knowledge over sorcery, as he mentions he was once a great sage. Due to his understanding of Celia's secrets and his proximity to the area, it is possible that he lives within the ghost town, a town that connects to the eternal city of Nokron. Although he physically appears within the shack, he in fact is just using illusionary magic on a kindred of rot that is under his control. He also refers to other kindred of rot as witless pests, meaning that the kindred of rot simply serve the rot blindly. They are merely a physical representation of the rot, used to protect it, just as the kami are protectors of nature. Gowry looks at Millicent as if she were his daughter, yet when she visits him at the shack, he hides, explaining that over time he's learned the best way to aid the young is to be forgotten. He also mentions that in the age of Queen Marika, a precious empyrean was born, referring to Melania, and Gowry is dedicated to her potential of creating a new age for the lands between. Gowry pulls the strings to stage the bloom of Scarlet Aeonia by nurturing Millicent through betrayal and sacrificing her body to spread the rot. His overall goal is to have Millicent become an enhanced version of Melania. The Twinbird is an envoy of the outer god of death. The Twinbird is the mother of the Deathbirds, who presumably act as a guide to the souls of the afterlife. Each Empyrean was born cursed by an outer god. Miquella's youthful blood connects him to the Formless Mother. Malenia is infected by rot that is constantly spreading throughout her body. And finally, we have Ranni, who chose the Dark Moon and the Nox heritage of her pseudo-mother, Rennala. But was Ranni's original body, the one we find burned atop of the Liurnia Divine Tower, cursed like the other Empyreans? I believe it was, and I believe it was cursed by the only other outer god explicitly mentioned in-game, the Twinbird, Death. The Twinbird envoy is depicted on the Twinbird kite shield. The bird's coloration is a clash of blue and red. Ranni is symbolically the blue bird on the shield. Her twin soul, Melina, is the red. The red and blue feathered branch sword relate to the death birds as well. They mention ancient death rituals and using those rendered up as a sacrifice as having a death worth offering. Interestingly, both Ranni and Melina sacrifice their bodies in death rituals, both with fire. Deathbirds use ghost flame. Its associated torch describes ghost flame as cold, containing the bones of the dead. Cold fire is the combination of Ranni's icy sorcery and the kindling maiden Melina, who walks alongside the flame. Ice and fire, if you will. Ranni was born of the amber egg, Radagon, and Marika, via the hair that Radagon used for his transformation into the form that we know him as, through Renala's rebirthing process. Ranni was possibly born a twin soul with Melina. During Bok's quest, Melina mentions that she isn't born of a mother, which could be a reference to the amber egg birth. Ranni and Melina have a shared appearance, as well as Melina even having a bird's claw tattoo on her face, relating her again to the Twinbird. The Frenzied Flame and Two Fingers were once part of the Greater Will, also known as the One Great. Shabriri in the possessed body of Hayata explains that from the perspective of the Three Fingers, that the One Great formed fractures, creating births and souls. Then it made a mistake. What mistake could it be referencing? Could it be the fractures themselves? As we know, the Three Fingers wish to converge everything back into one, an example of the law of regression. The Greater Will is from outside of the Lands Between, but is never labeled an outer god, because it is the source of the Golden Order. Therefore, it's technically an inner god, and the only god those within the Order praise. It is speculated that the Dark Moon is an outer god based on Ranni's quest conclusion with the beginning of a new age. The new age, however, is an age that removes the influences of outer gods from having direct control over the Lands Between. The Dark Moon is also esoteric and paired with cold sorceries, which translates to death. Ranni gravitated towards the Dark Moon because she is an Empyrean cursed by the outer god of death. This is why both Ranni and Melina use the blue spectral animation when teleporting, because just like Torrent, they are both spirits. The Dark Moon is more related to animism, the belief that objects, places, and creatures all possess a distinct spiritual essence. The outer gods are akin to natural order, while the Empyreans are a physical embodiment of that nature, which can be used to benefit their god or the natural element that once gave them power. The outer gods are trying to achieve a balance within the Lands Between, mirroring the goal of Shintoism. The Empyreans are more like kami, physical representations of nature. For example, Malenia was the only Empyrean we watched become a god. She transforms into the goddess of Rot to gain enough strength to defeat the Tarnished, as she did prior with Radahn. While she used the power of Rot for her own benefit, the Rot benefited as well as it spread through Caelid and now through the Halig Tree. Quick side note, maidens in the Japanese version of the game are called Miko, or Shrine Maidens. A Miko is a priestess who works at a Shinto shrine. Miko were once shaman and, even in modern day, practiced sacred cleansing. They were said to enter trances and to convey the words of the kami. Early Miko were important social figures who were associated with the ruling class. In closing, each outer god has the ability to start a new age, using an Empyrean as their physical vessel, and each of these gods have the ability to create and alter life. Do you believe these outer gods have desires, or do they simply exist, while humans look to harness their ancient powers in a quest to control the natural order of life? Outer gods in Elden Ring are representation of life's natural order: wounds, blood, rot, and death. When Marika removed the Rune of Death, it created a great stagnation. Marika's children have been cursed by outer gods in an attempt to readjust the true natural balance and order of the Lands Between. An example of stagnation in the Lands Between is represented in its bodies of water. The majority of running water is found underneath the lands, near the Eternal Cities. The only flowing source of water found above is near Mount Gelmir, while the rest of the water is in the form of lakes or pools, all stagnant. Flowing water symbolizes the flow of life. After the Rune of Death was removed, the water did not flow as it naturally once did. Shintoism has no single creator or specific doctrine. Instead, it's a focus on harmony, nature, and ancestral worship. Through its practices and beliefs, Shintoism offers individuals a way to connect with the world around them and find their place within the larger cosmic order. Thank you very much for your time today, and as always, I hope you have a wonderful week.